Point slope. I really need to change that setting. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Point slope form looks like this. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. M is still your slope. Okay, M is slope, and then you'll have some point that you're working with. That goes here and here. Okay, x1, y1 is the one that should get replaced. Your answer in point slope form should always have a y, an equal sign, and an x. You'll put numbers, numbers, numbers in the rest of it, but your final answer for point slope form should always have the y and the x as y and x, okay? So when it says write the equation of a line in point slope form, this is gonna be a line that passes through 2, -3. That's your point, okay? So that's your x1 and your y1. And then a slope of 4, that's your m. So if I'm trying to write this in point slope form, how would that look? If I'm just gonna drop it into this, what comes first? Y, okay? Y should always be y. So y minus what? A -3. Now here's where a lot of mistakes get made. You're subtracting, okay? But you're subtracting a negative. We put those away. So y minus a -3, right? What's m? The 4. So you're going to drop that in here. And then it's x minus, what's your x value? The 2. Okay, now the most simplified version of that, you would do plus a positive instead of minus a negative. So it would be y plus 3 equals 4 times x minus 2, and you're done. Okay, a lot of people try to turn that into slope-intercept form because that feels like the normal form. But if it says write it in point slope form, that's all the farther you go. Don't distribute the 4, don't move the 3 over, leave it in this form. Okay, so you try the next one. A line that passes through -5, 2, and a slope of 3/5. What's that gonna look like? Didn't change it. Okay, tell me what that was. What's your equation? Y minus 2 equals the slope, 3/5 times x plus 5. Minus a -5 would be x plus 5. Okay? Well done. All right, here's where it gets a little bit fancier. Now, instead of giving you the information you need, they give you some information and you have to find some of the information you need. So let's think about this. Point slope form. What two things do you need for point slope form? A point and a slope, right? So we have to figure out what point, what slope. Now, the nice thing is you get to choose the point. It does not matter. You will get the same answer. It will look different, but it's technically the same line. So I'll show you both with this one. How do you find the slope? We did it yesterday. Well, you guys did it 2 days ago. What's the slope formula? Yeah, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you have to start there, okay? So this is going to be x1, y1, and x2, y2. Make sure you're keeping your x's together and you're keeping your y's together when you lay this out, okay? So it's going to be y2, so 8, minus y1, which is 2, over x2, which is 5, minus x1, which is 3. So this will be our slope. What does that simplify to? 4/2, 1/2. Not 4 over 2. 6 over 2, right? So a slope of 3. Okay, so now you have 2 points and you have a slope. you get to choose which point you want to use. It does not matter, okay? I typically just use the x1, y1 because I already have it labeled as x1, y1, and that's what the formula looks like, but you don't have to. But if we do, it would be y minus what? Y minus 2. So y minus your y value equals the slope times x minus 3, your x value. Okay, so this is one answer. Your other answer would be y minus 8 equals the slope times x minus 5. I don't need both. Just pick one or the other. They are the same answer. If you turned both of those into slope-intercept form right now, they'd be identical. They don't look identical, but they really are the same line, okay? All right, you do it on letter B then. Feel free to talk to your neighbor about it. All right, what'd you get? I know you got something. Are you writing yet? Is it working? No? Lauren, you want to tell me what you got?
I got y minus 0 equals 7/5 times x plus 5.
Yes, that totally works. What is y minus 0? Y, right? So you can totally ditch that. Let's lay this out. x1, y1, x2, y2. So it's 7 minus 0, y1 minus y2. Sorry, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is plus a positive, so 7/5, right? That's your slope. So if you use this first point, y minus 0 equals 7/5 times x minus a negative 5, so x plus 5. But like I said, you can ditch the 0, so it would just be y equals 7/5 times x plus 5. If you leave that 0 in, I don't mark you wrong, but this would be the best answer. What'd you get if you did it the other way? Did anyone do this point instead? Or did you? Y minus 7 equals 7/5 times x minus 0. And what is x minus 0? It's just x, right? So you also could have on this one written y minus 7 equals 7/5 times x, which feels funny because it doesn't look like point slope, but that technically is point slope form. So you can do either one of those. Questions on that? Okay, let's talk parallel and perpendicular. What do you know about parallel lines and their slopes? What's the slope of these two lines going to be in relationship to each other? The same, right? These are parallel lines. They will have the same slope. These are parallel lines. They both have a slope of? It's a horizontal line slope. 0, right? These are vertical lines. They will both be undefined, okay? So your slopes are going to be the same when your lines are parallel, okay? Slopes are the same, but they have to have a different y-intercept. Why do they have to have a different y-intercept? What if they had the same y-intercept and the same slope? They're the same line, right? So they have to have a different y-intercept, but the same slope, okay? Perpendicular lines. What type of angle is formed by perpendicular lines? A right angle, a 90-degree angle, right? So when lines are perpendicular, they will form a right angle. Their slopes will always be what we call opposite reciprocals, okay? In math, what does it mean for two numbers to be opposites? What's the opposite of 5? -5. What's the opposite of -2? 2, right? So opposite means change your sign, right? Positive to negative, negative to positive. What's a reciprocal? A over B has a reciprocal of B over A, right? Flip it over, okay? So if their slopes have to be opposite reciprocals, that means we flip it and we change the sign. Let me give you a rundown of a few numbers here. So if my slope currently is 2/3, my perpendicular slope is what? 3/2, but negative, right? It's got to be opposite and reciprocal. So if it's a positive 2/3, it's going to become -3/2. What if my slope is -5? What's my opposite reciprocal of a -5? Flip it over. It's currently -5/1, right? Flip it. 1/5. It was negative, so we make it positive. Okay, opposite reciprocal. So flip it over, change the sign. -5 is technically -5/1. Okay, so parallel slopes are what? Parallel. The same. Perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals. Okay? Okay, with that in mind, we are going to write the equation of a line. We're going to put it into slope-intercept form. Okay? Parallel to this and go through this point. So let's think about this. If we have a point and we want lines to be parallel, what do we know about parallel lines? Same slope. So what's the slope of my new line going to be?
6x.
Not 6x, just 6, right? Slope comes in front of your x. So this is going to be my slope because it has to have the same slope. So I have a slope of 6 and a point of 1, -3. If I have a point and a slope, what form should I start with? Point slope form. Okay, so we're going to take this information and we're going to drop it into point slope form. Here's x1 and y1. Here's m. Drop it into point slope. So it's going to be y plus or minus? Plus 3. It's minus a -3. So y plus 3 equals our slope, 6. X plus or minus 1? Minus 1. Okay, the formula is subtraction. So if it's a positive number, we subtract that positive number. Okay, so this is point slope. It says put it in slope-intercept. How are we going to do that?
So add the 4x or
Distribute, right? So this is going to be y plus 3 equals 6x minus 6. How do I get that into slope-intercept? Subtract 3. Yeah, we're going to move that 3. So it's going to be y equals 6x minus 9. Okay. Some of you maybe learned this where you take this as your x and y in y equals mx plus b. So you have an m of 6, you have an x of 1, you have a y of -3. Okay, so you could solve for your b that way and then put it into slope-intercept form. I'm fine with you doing it that way too. If that's the way you've learned already and you like that way better, go for it. But since we're talking point slope today, I'm just going to show you with point slope. Okay, what do you know about perpendicular lines? Opposite reciprocal. So currently in this equation, what is our slope? -4. Okay, this is our slope. I want the perpendicular slope. What's our new slope going to be when we write our equation? Positive 1/4, right? So flip it over. It was -4. We're going to flip it over 1/4. It was negative. We're going to make it positive. Okay, so this is going to be our new slope. And we have a point, x1, y1. So if I plug that into point slope form, is it y plus or y minus? -5 equals my slope, 1/4, times x minus your x1 value, which is 8. Okay, and again, if we want to put this into slope-intercept form, we distribute So y minus 5 equals 1/4 x minus 2. Distribute that 1/4 to both. What's your last step? Add the 5, yep. So we're gonna go plus 5 here, plus 5 here. So y equals 1/4 x plus 3. Questions on that? All right, last two. This one holds a special place in my heart because we tease my mother-in-law about this one all the time. Crickets. Did you know the number of times a cricket chirps is dependent upon the temperature outside? Fun fact for you, if you did not know that. So here's your setup, okay? If it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit, there will be 0 chirps from a cricket. But if it's 93 degrees Fahrenheit, it would chirp 240 times in a minute. That's a lot, right? So if x is your degrees and y is your chirps, we're going to write the equation of a line for cricket chirps. What do you need to find first? The slope, okay? So you have x and y. If it helps you to set it up like this, you totally can if that helps you to see it. X is the degrees, right? So 40 and 93. Y is the chirps, so 0 and 240, okay? Or if you want to set it up as a point, you could set it up as a point. You could set it up as 40, 0 is my 1 point, and 93, 240. Maybe that makes more sense because that's how we've been seeing it. But we have to find the slope. So let's call this x1, y1, and x2, y2. What are you going to plug in to find your slope? What goes on top, x or y? The y's go on top. So we'll set this up as y2, 240, minus y1, and then x2, 93, minus x1, which is 40. So you get 240 over 53. Okay. Now, the nature of a problem like this is that's a very strange slope, right? And because it's a real world problem, we typically will just round this. So if you plug that into your calculator, 240 over 53 comes out to about 4.5. Okay, for the sake of this problem, we're just going to say our slope is 4.5. We're going to round it. It's not encouraged, but in a word problem, it makes way more sense to round. So we're going to round it. Okay. We want the equation of a line. You have some points, you have a slope. What form do you want to put it in? With points and slopes. Point slope, maybe. So take a point. I would do this one. Zeros are always nice to work with. And your slope, right? And we're going to go y minus our y value. So that's y minus what? 0 equals the slope, 4.5, times x minus the x value, which is 40. What did we say y minus 0 equals? Just y, right? So technically point slope form would be, oops. Oh, that's not what I want. Y equals 4.5 times x minus 40. That would be our point slope form. Okay, if we wanted to put it into slope intercept form, then what would you do? What? How do I make that slope intercept? Distribute, right? So this is going to be y equals 4.5x minus 4.5 times 40 is 180. Okay, so that would be our slope-intercept form. The question is, if it's 70 degrees, how many chirps will there be in a minute? Remember, degrees was our x value. So where are we dropping that 70 in? In place of the x. So you would say y equals 4.5 times 70 minus 180. And that you can just plug into your calculator. That comes out to 135 what? Chirps. Make sure on the word problems you tell me what it means. Don't just say y equals 135, because that does not tell me that you know what that means, right? Tell me what it means. It means 135 chirps in 1 minute. Okay, so if it is 70 degrees outside, you should hear about 135 chirps per minute. Questions on that?